Hi everyone, Chrissy here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card using some amazing Therm Web products. So first things first, what I did is I cut a card panel to 4 by 5.25 and I grabbed some distress inks. I'm using squeezed lemonade and picked raspberry here. I want to create kind of like a starry sky, but I also kind of wanted to have a little bit of highlights in there because I knew that I'd be putting the little Ferris wheel on there. And you know, when you're at a carnival, there's all like the light, should I say light pollution? I know that sounds like so negative, but there is kind of like the light pollution that goes with it. So everything's really bright and then it gets darker farther off. So I kind of wanted to show that. And so I started out by using some picked raspberry and some sweet lemonade. I was very light-handed when I did this. And then I came back in and I used Salty Ocean along with peacock feathers. One's a little bit more turquoisey than the other. The peacock feathers is kind of more of like a turquoise color. The Salty Ocean is a blue. I did not want to go with a darker color because instead what I did is I just kind of kept adding more and more ink. And even if when you're doing this, if it looks kind of unblended initially, once it dries, it does kind of even out. But I still recommend going in a circular motion like I am, and then tap off some of that excess ink when you first tap it on your stamp pad, your ink pad. So even if you don't have a non-stick craft mat like I'm using, keep a scrap piece of paper or something and definitely protect your surface because it does get messy, but it's so worth it because I love the final effect that we get. So now I'm going to start adding my foil. I have a scrap piece of paper here and I've cut some easy cut adhesive and I'm going to add it to both sides of the scrap piece of paper. Why? Because instead of just doing like a die cut with the stick on the back, with the adhesive on the back, I want it on both sides because I'm going to stick this on my card and I'm going to foil the front. So like I said, I just took a scrap piece of paper and now I'm just running it through my die cutting machine. I kind of sped that up because no one really needs to see me die cutting. I cut 3 stars and now I'm just trimming out some foil and I'm going to go ahead and peel off the fronts. I'm not going to peel off the backs just yet. I'm not quite ready to stick it on my card. I'm going to peel off the fronts and I'm going to do all 3 at once and I'm just going to flip my foil over and I'm going to stick the sticky side down. Now, you can run it through your die cutting machine, you can burnish it with your finger, or you can use what I'm doing. I'm using a bone folder. Lots of cases I just kind of use my finger or fingernail, but I really wanted to make sure the foil got in here. I want it to really look like a star. So you can see when I peeled it off, I now have customized foiled embellishments. And even though they may not be the star of the show, see what I did there? It definitely adds to the background of this card. It really does make the background kind of pop out. Instead of just being a plain colored background with the stamped image there, something super awesome going on. So I added a little bit of powder there. I'm doing this because I'm going to heat emboss using white embossing powder, and sometimes embossing powder sticks, especially after I've inked a surface. It seems like it's a little bit more staticky. So I always run this powder over it first. So I just stamped it with some Versamark ink. It's a watermark ink. And now I'm just adding some embossing powder. You can see that I'm using, I know, it's really exciting, an old coffee filter as a catch tray. It works. It is so cheap and it works. I'm all about being as frugal as I can when I craft. So coffee filters, awesome way to go. So then I just heat embossed it and you can see now my little sentiment is there. Look, it looks so nice and pretty. So I had stamped this image previously. I used VersaFine ink and then I put clear embossing powder over it and then I colored it in with just some watercolor markers. I die cut it out with the coordinating die. I didn't show any of that on camera because, I don't know, watching me coloring is probably boring. So I'm scoring. I scored my card base, which was just a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cardstock, and I scored it at 4.25. So we're going to have a top folding card, standard size, standard A2 size, and then I added the panel on there using my tape runner, and I definitely recommend this tape runner. It is so nice and strong. I've had no problems whatsoever. And then I really wanted the Ferris wheel to pop up a little bit. I wanted it separate from that background that we're working on. So I just went ahead and I added the foam on there, and you can see that for like the legs of the Ferris wheel, I just cut it in half. Works like a charm. I love it. So this foam, by the way, is so awesome. It's so sticky that I made a mistake and I almost couldn't peel it off the back. So it's not coming off. Let me tell you, you send this through the mail, it's going nowhere. That Ferris wheel is staying on until the world ends. We're gonna have an apocalypse and this card's still gonna be around. So I'm just going ahead now and I'm peeling off that back side of the foiled star, because remember we put the adhesive on the front and the back. So now I'm peeling off the back. And now I'm grabbing my DecoFoil adhesive pen. The first time you use this pen, you just want to grab a scrap piece of paper and push it down for about 30 seconds to make sure that adhesive is flowing. I just did it as a tester and so I could talk about it on this video. But then I just kind of went around and I tapped it where I wanted some stars and I let it dry for a couple of minutes. Found out the hard way, doesn't work that well when it's wet. Like the first initial ones I started doing, it was still a little bit damp. I didn't wait quite long enough. So then I kind of started airing it out. And then once it was dry, and I should have known better because that's how the other adhesive will work. It has to be dry. Why would it be wet? But that's just a good little tip for you to know, to let it dry. And then this worked like a charm. Again, you can use your finger. You can use die cutting machine. I'm all about saving things. So that is why I cut a little scrap piece of foil here. And I'm just burnishing in using that bone folder. And if you are having a hard time seeing where you added that adhesive, because once it dries, you know, it's kind of hard to see, you can actually tilt your card. It's a little bit shiny, so that makes it a little bit easier. You know where to lay your foil down. So on my card, I made a couple mistakes. There were a couple spots where I added too much adhesive. I got a little like overzealous with that pen because it's so cool. So some of the spots were like a little bit too big. So I just took a paper piercer. This is like a whole giant tool in one thing, but you can just use a paper piercer or like an X-Acto knife and you can kind of scratch off any foil that you don't want there and it leaves absolutely no mark. So it's fantastic. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please check out ThermoWeb's blog and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.